The fate of this woman stunned even seasoned police officers. Esmeralda Ferrer Garibay was known across the world for her beauty and a lifestyle most could only dream of. And then she was found plastic bags in the back of a pickup truck left on a public street. But she wasn't alone. Her husband and 2 other members of her family were found right there beside her. 4 lives were tragically cut short in Guadalajara, Mexico. The scene left no doubt. This was not a robbery, and it was not random. What happened to this young family and why? The investigation seems to break when 2 persons of interest are identified, but then the story takes an even stranger turn when the suspects themselves are taken by an unknown group right as they are leaving the police station. Before we get into the details of this case, let's start with the introductions. This is 32-year-old Esmeralda Ferrer. As you can see, Esmeralda Ferrer was an incredibly beautiful woman with over 44,000 followers on TikTok. She was a true influencer. In her posts, Esmeralda shared videos of her at the beach, shopping, and lip syncing, always in stylish outfits with immaculate hair and makeup. She also flaunted upscale items like Dior, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton, expensive cars, and lavish vacations. But she had no idea that her entire family would pay the ultimate price for that lifestyle. In her videos, she'd sometimes reference her husband, 36-year-old Roberto. It was a fatal connection. On the surface, Roberto was a legitimate businessman. He was involved in vehicle sales and tomato farming in their home state of Michoacan. But these businesses operated in an area controlled by powerful, shadowy groups. It was a world where industries like transportation and agriculture are often used for illegal financial activities. And it was a world the family had recently tried to escape by moving to Guadalajara. Together, they had 2 children, Gail and Regina. But on August 22nd, their hope for a safer life was shattered. The entire family of 4 was found in the back of an abandoned pickup truck in Guadalajara. The scene itself was heartbreaking. Investigators immediately began backtracking the truck's route using surveillance footage, which led them to a nearby auto repair shop. Inside, the scene told the rest of the story. Clear signs of a struggle were scattered across the floor. It was clear this was the primary location, and the family had been moved from there afterwards. But this discovery only deepened the mystery. The auto shop was located in a busy middle-class neighborhood, yet the entire event happened in complete silence. No witnesses, no calls to the police, nothing. If you add to this that the perpetrators didn't even bother to clean up, leaving crucial forensic evidence behind, then it becomes obvious they were confident in their impunity. But the auto shop did provide investigators with their first breakthrough: 2 names. So the investigation seemed to move quickly. Authorities detained 2 men connected to the auto shop: Hector Manuel Martinez and another known only as El Chino. But as reported by NDTV World, just 7 days after the family was found, the case completely stalled. Both men were released due to a lack of evidence. And here, the story takes a bizarre and chilling turn. According to the New York Post, just moments after walking free, Hector met up with 2 acquaintances outside the prosecutor's office. Then, in a shocking move, 3 of the men were forced into a vehicle by an unknown group and driven away. The 4th, El Chino, managed to escape and has not been seen since. While authorities wait to speak with the man who escaped, this brazen daylight event leaves behind a trail of disturbing questions. So what was the true role of the men who were taken? They were either key players or they were simply witnesses who saw too much, and more importantly, who took them and why. This chilling development casts a new shadow over the entire investigation, making the central question even harder to answer. What was the motive behind the loss of Esmeralda and her family? While police haven't confirmed the motive, many believe the answer lies with Esmeralda herself and the image she projected online. She would often post TikToks flaunting expensive gifts, designer bags, luxury cars, with captions that joked her boyfriend was a criminal, and that's where all the nice things came from. Could these online jokes have been taken seriously? And could they have played a role in the family's tragic end? The leading theory behind this case rests on one simple unspoken rule: certain people and their business must remain in the shadows. But Esmeralda, with her 44,000 followers and a rapidly growing fan base, was doing the exact opposite. Whether she meant it as a joke or was revealing a dangerous truth, the result was the same. Her online posts about a powerful boyfriend began to draw a bright and unwelcome spotlight onto a life that was meant to remain hidden. The fact is, she drew attention and paid the ultimate price. But that leads to the final haunting question: if the problem began with her, why the entire family? The goal was likely twofold: to remove a perceived problem, and more importantly, to make a statement. What happened to Esmeralda and her entire family was meant as a warning to anyone else who might talk too much. And the reason Esmeralda's TikTok account became so significant is simple. In today's world, even the most powerful and secretive figures are deeply aware of their online image. For them, a chatty influencer's spotlight isn't a trivial matter. It's a variable that needs to be managed, sometimes permanently. But there is also a second theory. Some reports suggest that Roberto's businesses were failing and that he had borrowed money from the wrong people to support his family's expensive lifestyle. A lifestyle that Esmeralda, perhaps unknowingly, showcased to the world. In this version of the story, the motive was simply about collecting a debt. But what makes this case truly unforgettable and elevates it to something out of a Hollywood movie is what happened to the suspects themselves. You'll recall that the two men detained from the auto shop, Hector and El Chino, were quickly released. And that just moments later, Hector and two others were taken by an unknown group. Everyone assumed the three men were gone for good, another loose end cut by the organization. But 26 days later, in a turn no one could have predicted, they were found, alive. Their safe return to their families was the most baffling part of the entire story. It was a move that seemed to make no sense until you look at it as a cold business decision. The leading theory suggests that Hector and El Chino weren't the masterminds, but were simply employees at the auto shop. But they could have been witnesses to what happened. When they were detained, they faced a critical test of loyalty: cooperate with the police or stay silent. By choosing silence, they passed that test. Their disappearance then wasn't a punishment, but a high-stakes debriefing to learn exactly what they had told the police. And their safe return was a deliberate message sent to everyone else: silence is rewarded. Cooperation with law enforcement is not. Of course, another theory suggests the men were more directly involved in the incident itself. But either way, the core logic remains the same. Their loyalty was tested and they passed. And so the case of Esmeralda Ferrer and her family remains a dark, unsolved puzzle. A story that serves as a reminder that in a world where online fame meets real-world danger, some spotlights don't just fade to black, they are permanently switched off.